It's no secret that each character in this game has a relatively unique set of skills that separate them from their peers. And while there are certainly characters who play like others, and some characters who are just way too gimmicky for their own good, I have a handful of characters that I just always enjoy using. This is my top 10 list of my favorite units to use in Triangle Strategy. I have to emphasize one thing before I continue though. This is not a tier list. This isn't a list of the best characters in the game. First of all, you would need to qualify something like that on the basis of it being New Game or New Game Plus, on difficulty, and that kind of thing. This game is super non-linear, non-competitive, and different playstyles will place higher importance on some characters over others. Like, yes, Quahog is easily the best character in the game because his aptitudes are literally so broken, they trivialize basically over half the maps. But he's an actual cheat code and doesn't even feel fun to use anymore. So yeah, this isn't a tier list, and I just want to talk about the characters that I enjoy using the most. Archibald. When I first recruited Archie, I didn't have much faith in an archer with his movement and speed. In fact, he rode the bench for a bit on my normal run until I did my periodic mental mock battle level grinding to keep everyone up to speed. It was here where I learned of his aptitudes and how excellent they really were. Even though he has low movement, his range is very good, but edged arrows defense ignoring is what really started to sell me. This was especially useful on hard mode as boss stats got inflated. Archibald reliably chopped up shield bearers more than any other physical unit as well, it felt. Inescapable Arrow is pretty great value for a 3 TP aptitude, and at level 50 has a 50% chance for instant death for enemies under 50 HP, which isn't even that bad. Even his weapon skill, despite the 1-turn charge, can still fire off immediately with some teamwork from Medina, Benedict, or the Quietus in tandem. And because that ignores defense too, it deals great damage. A powerful ranged nuke with the ability to crit and can also synergize well with Izana, another character on this list, is just awesome. Also, I love his voice. Don't underestimate Archibald because he will put in the work faster than you think. Izana. Besides the amazing character design, Izana's damage absolutely slaps. As this game's premier light magic user, she nukes the hell out of her enemies. She doesn't have a very complicated role, but she does it well. I very rarely use her wind magic, but I can appreciate it being there anyway. Like I mentioned before, I like using her along with Archibald. Rite of Tempests makes dealing with enemy archers much less of a hassle, but she also boosts Archibald's damage thanks to his passive. The only thing I wish was better was Rite of Thunderstorms. It's honestly not the best weapon skill in my opinion. For a 5 TP aptitude and a turn to charge, the map-wide AoE just isn't as reliable as I would like, even after stacking accuracy on her. But like I mentioned, Spark and her damage is where it's at. That alongside with the chance to paralyze enemies is something that I've leaned on a lot more in my playthroughs than I'd like to admit. It's very satisfying to land. Jens. Who doesn't love using Jens, man? His aptitudes are some of the most unique ones in the game. Firstly, he was an X factor in several very difficult maps for me in this game. The Landroy map and the defending Roselle from Rufus and Tellior maps especially come to mind, where his ladders came through in big ways. Predicting where boss enemies would end up walking just for them to get launched either backwards, to the side over a bridge, or right into my team so I could dogpile them is also very satisfying. I ended up having Rudolph and Jens on Roland's regiment for the true ending, without knowing what to expect in the Gustadolf map, but both of their trap setting came through in big ways. Jens was especially helpful to drive Gustadolf back so I could focus on his lackeys first, since Quahog wasn't available to utterly cheese this entire thing. I don't always use Jens, especially on New Game Plus, but on a New Game playthrough, he was great in the maps where his ladders were needed. Just a really cool unit design for a game like this. Serenoa. The main character. Thankfully, the one unit that is force deployed on 99% of the story maps is actually fun to use. All of his aptitudes have a place with my playstyle. Hawk Dive is a great ranged damage option, especially if you can forge to extend the range on it. Delayed Strike is a 1 TP option that I've had great success in using to slow down bosses so as to dogpile them before they can attack. And Under Conviction's banner, while a costly 4 TP, has a wide-spreading AoE that my allies have certainly benefited from. He's one of the heavier hitters in the game, and thank God for that since you're forced to use him. I really enjoy using him alongside Benedict. Benedict was always like a turn ahead, meaning I could use 2-fold turn on him for a very satisfying immediate double action, usually in the form of a delayed strike and a hawk dive, or just a hawk dive and 1 normal hit, or 2 hawk dives altogether. It really helped clean up some troublesome enemies and bosses down the campaign. I don't really have much else to say, he's just a good unit in my eyes. Lionel. I was torn between picking Milo or Lionel for this spot, since you could probably guess why they are here. Lionel feels genuinely like ass to use on a normal playthrough up until his weapon skill is unlocked. Golden Opportunity feels like legitimately one of the strongest aptitudes in the game. I think it actually is. It must be like top 5 or something. It has great range and is an AoE, with the 100% chance to hit and charm its targets for a turn, at the cost of 7,500 gold per use, but man, who cares? It is so good. It skyrockets him in worth on New Game Plus playthroughs, as he has something that actually is worth using on enemies. He can turn the tide in a fight altogether, but in combination with Milo, he and her can completely cheese maps on hard mode. Tempt is a very strong status effect in the player's hands. Combine that with one of the strongest damaging AoEs in the game, and suddenly Lionel is one of the best characters in the game in my opinion. He completely rode the bench before this though, because honestly, besides the fury-inducing range option he has, everything else feels like it kind of sucks. He is fittingly a character that takes a literal money investment to be strong, which makes this all the more hilarious. Avlora. In my opinion, hard mode nerfs most physical damage dealers, since damage multipliers are the only thing that changes between difficulties. Characters whose role it is to deal a lot of damage will see themselves struggling more as their damage scales down, while the support and utility units aren't as penalized. This is why I really don't like using Roland for anything besides killing bosses or other damage dealing units like Decimal, Groma, or Giovanna, although at least the former's height 5 aptitude has good uses in some maps, and his massive gimmicky ranges sometimes work out fantastic. Then you have Avlora, who gets literally free damage from risky maneuver, which can be forged to be even stronger. I don't even use Bloody Cross that much, or anything else. If I need her to wail on a boss, her damage output just does the job pretty solidly. She is an incredibly straightforward melee nuker, and I honestly could not be more thankful. I deserve some easy damage, with her being the exclusive True Path recruit. That is all I can really say. She hits incredibly hard, and when you combo her with Medina or Benedict, or in tandem, you can just slap on like 3 hits in a row, and it feels great. Maxwell. Maxwell is like Avlora, but more fun. He deals a shitload of damage, but has more options to get the job done. On Forge, triple thrust decreases to 1 TP, basically making it a very constant low-cost damage dealing option. Lance Hurl is a great range attack as well. Traverse, like any other jumping/movement options, is always extremely valuable, but no Square Enix game or Dragoon character is complete without special treatment. And Maxwell gets 2 fun tools. One is his auto rejuvenate, which I mean, come on, he gets to revive at full HP just for existing, and 2, high jump. This aptitude is fun as heck. It doesn't even feel that costly, as he has extremely easy TP regeneration thanks to 2 birds, 1 stone. This is a massive AoE weapon skill that just wrecks a lot for damage, and is especially fun to use on the path you get him in, since that one is littered with cavaliers who are innately weak to lances. It makes sense that he and Roland play quite similarly, but I get much more enjoyment out of using Maxwell for his cheap damage, mobility, bulky passives, range, and AoE destruction. He is a Chad. Corentin. That's right, based Corentin fan in the building. Corentin was among my favorite units to use in the demo, especially because Wall of Ice was used to hinder the movement of the approaching as frosty soldiers in the first Avlora map. And even though that strategy barely worked for me on my actual game playthrough, and I instead opted for large oil pots and firestones to mess with the AI, Corentin's other uses for ice magic has always been helpful to me. Frosty Fetters makes him very useful to deal with annoying enemy mages that can deal high damage, and at level 50 the silence is basically guaranteed at 90%. I also really enjoyed using Ice Shield and found a lot of success with that while combining him with Decimal on Landroy's map on hard mode, for example. His damage isn't terribly high, but it makes up for it in range and in AoE. I usually just stacked speed on him because the speed isn't that high, just so I can get him higher on the turn priority. But if he has the TP for it, Icy Tomb has helped me in the past. It does require some setup though, and his weapon skill is a very wide-ranging and damage-dealing AoE to boot. I personally think it does pretty good damage for the cost. Corentin is a solid and versatile ice mage, and in my opinion, the most unique elemental mage you get. Benedict. Benedict is just so good. In the early game, Raging Beast and Bulwark are helpful, and Bird of Prey serves a pretty nice role before Jens can be recruited. And even though he's still solid early game, it's his later aptitudes that really skyrocket in his awesomeness. Now, and Twofold Turn especially turned him into, like, a refresher in this game. Like I mentioned before, using Twofold Turn with Serenoa always just seems to work, since Benedict is just slightly fast enough to always be ahead of him in turn priority. But you can start getting crazy damage with anyone when stacking Twofold Turn, and then in tandem, and then like Medina. Bosses literally just melt with the sequence of aptitudes and quietuses. Dragon Shield is also cheap and awesome. I basically had to use this alongside Gila's Auto Resurrection in the first map of New Game Plus Plus because Travis's crew is very annoying to deal with. I did start to use Benedict less and less in my New Game Plus Plus playthrough in favor of my absolute favorite character to use and arguably the best character in a New Game only playthrough. But still, Benedict will always be really enjoyable to use, even if he's not one to do that much damage. And finally, Medina. My absolute favorite character in this game is my girl Medina. While she may come off as just a gimmicky healer at first glance, I genuinely think, without opting for Quahog cheese, she's the best unit in this game. This girl can do so much more than just throw pellets in range. First of all, at the bottom level, double items has some offensive utility in that you can break an oil pot and then set it on fire in one action, which is nice in a pinch if you need to hinder the enemy AI from approaching. But what is really broken is TP Physic. With double items, TP Physic, and ranged HP pellets, Medina essentially becomes the best TP battery in the game. Being able to charge herself and 4 other allies for 2 TP in total, or just 10 different allies for 1 TP, this means that she can provide mages with constant TP, provide herself with constant double items, can give Milo or Lionel their tempt weapon skill immediately, can get Benedict to get Dragon Shield immediately, literally anything like that. It's very cheap to do this too. All it takes are ranged pellets to achieve this constant source of TP. This doesn't even take into account that fast-acting medicine is just a 100% better version of Benedict's now, because it's only 2 TP for someone else to immediately act again. Medina running at full bars invalidates basically every healer, arguably invalidates Julio, and starts crossing over into Benedict's territory. She is stupidly good and useful, and luckily arrives very early in a New Game playthrough. So yeah, hands down my favorite and most useful unit in all of my playthroughs. If you're struggling with the difficulty and you're not using Medina, or aren't taking full advantage, or don't quite understand TP Physic or fast acting meds, start now. By the end of my run, I stopped fielding any other healer, Julio, or Benedict, and instead opted for more offense because Medina could just do their job. Best girl, 10 out of 10. Well everyone, thank you so much for watching this video on my top 10 favorite characters to use in Triangle Strategy. I just want to say thank you so much for your previous support on my spoiler-free review. I was kind of worried that I was going to make a video, especially a review of a game that isn't Fire Emblem, but I'm really appreciative of all the support that video got, and I really hope that if you guys did watch this, that you could leave a like and a comment down below on who your favorite characters to use are. I want to do a follow-up video of like the characters that I hate using, because that would be kind of funny to talk about and just kind of complain about characters who I think are just fucking bad and characters who I think are just like they make you feel gross for using, like Quahog. With that all being said, thank you so much. Thank you as well for everyone who recently subscribed. The channel is just 300 subscribers away from 92,000. So if you did enjoy this video but you haven't subscribed yet and you like my Triangle Strategy content, please consider doing so. Lastly, I do have a Patreon as well, and if you want to support me there outside of just liking and commenting and subscribing on YouTube, you can check out the Patreon and see if you want to support me there. It's very cheap, $4 a month to get started, and you get access to my private Discord. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Deuces.